Window World is proud to present Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Simply the best for less at windowskansascity.com.
After an uninspiring first half of football, all I could think at halftime of the Chiefs 49ers game on Sunday was the Kansas City Chiefs are the best coached team in the NFL and the worst coached team at exactly the same time. Muffed punts, missed field goals, interceptions, misplays, and penalties found the Chiefs in a very familiar place against the Niners, and that was down double digits. They rallied to take the halftime lead, but nothing felt secure or safe. Far too many mistakes. And yet another game where the Chiefs fall behind before they wake up and start playing well. Here's what makes the Chiefs go. Their bad is bad, but their good is great. No, it's spectacular. And spectacular came out in the second half against the 49ers. Up and down the field, everybody on offense made a play. The defense finished the game with 5 sacks and really frustrated the 49ers as the game went on. How great were the Chiefs offensively? Well, McCole Hardman had 3 touchdowns, including a great tiptoeing edge run to the end zone on a spectacular play. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got a deep ball, got behind Charvarius Ward. Huge play for the Chiefs. Juju with a pair of nice catches. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a big touchdown run. Pacheco with a 50-yard kick return. Should I keep going? Have I mentioned Travis Kelce? Travis Kelce had a nice, quiet day, and I think he liked it on National Tight Ends Day because it was getting spread around the entire offense. Patrick Mahomes finishes with 423 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an incredible 6 of 7 third down conversions in this game. Defensive tackle Chris Jones said afterwards, quote, "I actually think we play better when we are down," end quote. I hate hearing that, but I also love hearing the truth, and it is true. Juju Smith-Schuster somehow in some babbling sort of way about Madden video games that I don't really understand, says they had Mahomes on X Factor, which I assume means that's the best the quarterback can be playing and you're playing against them. He said, "I tried to get X Factor on my game, but I don't have that." I don't know what that all means. All I know is these guys are having fun. They were laughing at how easy it was in the second half, and the Chiefs move to 5-2 with a terrific win over a good San Francisco 49ers team. What does it all mean in the end? Well, it means the Chiefs have to find more consistency. The interception by Mahomes was a poorly run route by Sky Moore. The muffed punt, you can't have. The penalties, inopportune times. Missed field goals, unacceptable for what they're paying Harrison Butker. I mean, it wasn't even close. He just pushed it right, and it drifted and drifted and drifted, and the mistakes were just piling up, and it felt like the Colts game. You thought, well, here they go. They're not playing their A game. They're not paying attention to detail. One of the hard parts about attention to detail, and we're going to talk about this with Stan Weber in just a couple of moments, one of the hard parts for the Kansas City Chiefs about the little things is the Chiefs are so great at the big things that how do you get these guys to pay attention to the little things? It almost seems impossible. I can't even bash Andy Reid for it or the coaching staff. You just can't. When they know they have this greatness, this explosion, this much talent, and this much ability, how do you pay attention to the little things? How do you get upset with a holding call? How do you get upset with a poorly run route where an interception happens to start the game that should have never happened? Wasn't Mahomes' fault? Nope, that's a rookie receiver making a mistake. Is that a little thing? Of course it's a little thing. If you get in the playoffs or you're playing the Bills again, is it a big thing? Absolutely. But for the Chiefs, they just shrug it off like the players do. Like they dust themselves off, they come back, and they light up the scoreboard, and it was spectacular. Some people could call the end of the game boring. Not for me. Not a game that's that close to the half where the Chiefs have made that many mistakes. Because the Chiefs are so explosive, they're also at any moment capable of imploding. They take chances. They run risks. They can turn the ball over, and the other team can capitalize on that. All in all, a great day for the Chiefs. The best sign, and again, we'll get into this with Stan, for me, was watching Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster on the same page with their quarterback, making plays, back shoulder throws. The timing seems to be getting there. As the Chiefs develop more weapons, they have everything it takes to be every bit as good as they were when Tyreek Hill was here. That was borne out when they busted out the stat on Fox yesterday that the Chiefs last year with Tyreek Hill in big plays, and I think they said big plays, meaning over 30 yards. I think that was the metric they used. They were 13th in the NFL last year. This year, the Chiefs are 6th. And after Sunday's game, it's got to be higher than that because there was one big play after another all over the field. It was spectacular. Stan Weber will join us. We'll talk about that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers struggles. Dallas Cowboys getting Dak back. The college football games over the weekend, not so good. For KU and K-State, Missouri gets a win. We'll get into all of it with Stan coming up in just a couple of moments. It's brought to you by Cross Kitchens. Online at crosskitchenskc.com. Family owned and operated. If you're going to do a kitchen remodel or a basement build out or a bathroom, Cross Kitchens KC is your go-to firm. Tim Cross and his family own and operate this business. It is their baby, and your project is like their project. Online at crosskitchenskc.com. Advantage Termite and Pest Control, the only pest control company we've ever used. We've been with them for over 20 years. Advantage Termite and Pest Control. Make the switch, get signed up for next year, and you'll be thrilled to get their quarterly service online at AdvantageTPC.com. That's Advantage Termite Pest Control, AdvantageTPC.com, 913-768-8989. Right now, you may be seeing spiders, crickets, stink bugs, maybe even some mice coming in. Knock them out with Advantage Termite and Pest Control, AdvantageTPC.com. And 360 Document Solutions. Mark and his team at 360 will help your business be more effective, more efficient, more productive, and more profitable. What's wrong with that? Anything that has to do with IT solutions, voiceovers, mailing systems, outsourced ITs, copiers, printers, you name it, 360documentsolutions.com. Dump the expensive stuff, especially if you use HP toner where your office is, get rid of it. He's got better products at lower prices. Get a new deal, and Mark can even get you out of your lease right now. 360documentsolutions.com. All right, Stan Weber's here. It's always fun with the football feast. We had another big weekend. We got a lot to talk about with Stan on KKHI. Hit it!
The KK Has Issues conversation is presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. Shop, click, drive at robertsrobinson.com.
No more delaying. Stan Weber is here, and he's going to break it all down for us, everything that we saw in this wild game with the Chiefs that turned into a blowout, but certainly never felt like that at any point in the first half. Hello, Stan. How was your weekend, sir?
Well, it was a lot of good football, Kevin. Not all the endings ended the way you might want, but we're near the midpoint in the pros and hitting the midpoint in college, and the competition continues to be extreme, and the comebacks are just a big story. These kids are wired, kids meaning even 20 years and 30-year-old guys now. These comebacks just seem like no big deal. Someone gets behind, and they just bounce right back, and the Kansas City Chiefs showed that. It looked like San Francisco was ready to play, brought it in a big way, and the Chiefs said, oh, okay, things aren't going our way. We're not done. And that's just been a big theme of football this year. Just teams don't even blink when things don't go well early. They say, let's go the whole 60 minutes, and it's been fun to watch.
Okay, the Chiefs frustrate me, and all I could think of at halftime yesterday was the Chiefs are the best coach team and the worst coach team all at the same time because the stupid things they do are really bad. They can be considered little things, I think, by many people. And my new theory after the game was over is this. Just tell me I'm crazy if you think this is nuts. I think the Chiefs are bad at the little things because they're so great at the big things that they know if they're good at what's really important, it doesn't matter how many stupid little things they do, whether they muff a punt or rack up penalties or miss a field goal or run the improper route by Sky Moore on an interception to start a game and fall behind 10. These things don't seem to matter if they just come back and do all the big things really great. How can Andy Reid make them pay more attention to the little things?
Well, it's a slippery slope, Kevin, because the one thing I talked about comebacks. The other thing is just elite confidence is worth its weight in gold. And an old school coach would just continue to beat on the players about the three things they did wrong, even if they did 100 things right. I like the Dallas Cowboys and studied them. Tom Landry was a defensive guru, but also became an offensive guru before his career ended. So he would go watch the game with the team, and Charlie Waters would say, halftime, the whole team would have to watch the game together. And at halftime, he'd come out and he'd ask his buddies, did we lose by 20 when they won 40-7? Because he continued to point out all the things that they need to do better. And that was a coaching style that has passed the test of time, okay? But right now, Kevin, the most valuable thing is that you have a belief that good things are going to happen. You have a belief that your fellow teammates aren't going to let you down, that you're going to make winning plays. And that's the thing that Andy Reid's got to deal with here. I mean, he's got to be careful not to make every one of these players think that they can do it. It might be Patrick Mahomes who's creating the magic, but everybody on the team thinks that they're a part of it. I mean, Frank Clark thinks I'm a dominant player. And when he needs to get around the corner and beat, the best left tackle in the league for a safety, he just goes around and does it. Other plays, maybe not so good, some inconsistencies. So it is a really hard equation to get into about what you want to do, Kevin, because the Chiefs just believe they're going to win. Down by 10, I thought the Niners, bouncing back from that embarrassment last week that they lost, like NFL teams do that are good teams, they came out with a passion, and they hit the Chiefs right in the mouth, and they were there. Not only was the Christian McCaffrey deal a big deal, that was to the fans, but the whole team was ready to get after the Chiefs, and they did. And the Chiefs didn't even blink because everybody on the team believes, oh, we got this. We're going to make plays. So the focus of saying I've got to minimize every mistake I make for us to be the best we can be is not something that emanates in the locker room at all. But would you want to change that? I mean, if you were the coach, where would you try to find this balance? It is a tricky thing with the human mind. Right now, when he walks in, there is extreme confidence that their plays are smarter than the other teams, and their players are going to make winning plays to go win the game. And most teams would pay any amount of money to have that magic. So that's the problem. What would you do, Kevin? I mean, how do you talk to these guys other than say, we're going to win this thing in the end, let's go?
Well, McCole Hardman's going to grab a lot of headlines because he had 3 touchdowns in this game, and the defensive line got 5 sacks. Those are all big things. Here's my takeaway of what I thought was the best thing that I saw on Sunday from the Chiefs, and I'm just curious to see if you saw it too, or maybe you saw it earlier in a previous game. I felt like this was the first time that Patrick Mahomes, with Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, looked like they've been together a while. They look like they're on the same page, and they feel comfortable. I loved a couple of the back shoulder throws. I like the fact that he went to them. They looked comfortable like they've been here for a while, and it wasn't something new. Did that look different to you in this game?
It did, Kevin. And, I've been a big guy on the theme of saying losing Tyreek Hill is a step backwards for the Chiefs, but that does not mean they have to take a step backward in their net result, how good they are in 2022. And 2 things I thought needed to make up for the step backward with Tyreek Hill, and that is a defense play better, be more physical, stop the run a little more reliably, those kind of things. The defense could be better, and the Chiefs' defense has not been that good, average at best throughout this AFC championship run, division championship run, whatever you want to call it. But the other thing was that Patrick Mahomes can continue to improve. We noted this in our podcast all last year when the Chiefs started off with a 2-3 record, that Patrick knew that they were playing that cover 2, and he needed to be more sound in the pocket, throwing the football in rhythm and taking what they give him. Well, that is last year's story. This year, they're blitzing the Chiefs. They're not worried about a receiver getting away from them. They're playing man-to-man. It's more of a traditional defensive strategy against the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes needs to adjust to it. That is the big story in the offseason to me, is that he becomes a more refined quarterback from the pocket, and he looked that way. Just go back and watch the tape. These great highlight plays by the Chiefs that broke the 49ers back, it really broke their back. When they would make plays and try to come back and the Chiefs would answer it. Where was Patrick Mahomes on those plays, Kevin? Just like we had talked about and like you're focusing in on, he was throwing from the pocket. This was not scrambling around all over and throwing between his legs, hitting the guy and making an unbelievable play. It's 3rd and 11. And the Niners have bounced back. At that point in the game, it's 3rd and 11. He'd actually been sacked. Bosa finally showed up. They dogged him all day, but he finally got a sack. Chiefs are 3rd and 11. Guess what he did? Stood in the pocket, read the defense, and said, oh, look at this. I got my receiver right down over the top and hit him in stride with a beautiful throw. Just throwing from the pocket, reading the defense, delivering the ball all over the yard. It really was as complete game by Patrick Mahomes from the pocket. This is the Patrick Mahomes that could be doing this at 35 years old, Kevin, where maybe he doesn't have the scramble ability anymore. It is a giant step forward. That they played a good Niners team who's been great at home, was super excited and brought it, punched them in the mouth, and all the Chiefs say, we're answering in a team mode. It wasn't a one-man show. It wasn't just Travis Kelce catching the ball and Patrick Mahomes dancing all over the field. It was from the pocket, getting the ball to anybody and everybody, and it was good. I mean, that's that becomes more lethal than what Tyreek Hill can give you. Because if you're getting ready to play the Chiefs in the next game, and the Chiefs get a bye week now, where are you going to emphasize your defense after you say, let's slow down Travis Kelce? After that, what are you going to do? Because right now he is throwing the ball in this last game against the 49ers to everybody when they're open, on time, from the pocket. That's beautiful football. Throwing the ball from the pocket is how you win in the NFL.
Yeah, and Mahomes is completely sold on it. He talked about it after the game on Sunday. He's completely sold on they don't know where we're going next. They don't know who to stop. Travis Kelce had a nice game, but by Travis Kelce standards, which is what we want, it was a very quiet game. You know, he wasn't the guy scoring the touchdowns with all the big highlight plays and whatever. He was an effective player, had a very nice game for an NFL tight end, and everybody else was stealing headlines. And I just think I do wish they were better at running back, but we saw an excellent run by Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this game. And, you know, Pacheco had a really nice kick return, but was just okay as the starting running back. I wish they didn't have to be so creative. Now, we had McCole Hardman into the running game because he had 2 rushing touchdowns. One little pitch sweep thing to the right, one to the left. And you know, to me, that's all just extended run game stuff that they're doing. So that counts too. The only thing I look at on offense, because the offensive line was terrific here as well, I just wish they had a better running back, but I'm splitting hairs, I think, at this point.
Modern football is oftentimes right now, Kevin, about multiple running backs. You know, things they got to concern themselves with. And God, the NFL has always been about be great in the regular season, have the best record, get home field advantage, and that is the best predictor about who's going to be in the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, and all of that. It was a 17-game grind, and the competition level so high across the board. You know, and knowing you're one of the elite teams, I'd hate to be in the meeting room with you, Kevin, if we were in the coaching staff, trying to figure out how much are we going to leave in the gas tank so we'll be ready in the postseason. I hate that thought. It usually never works. You got to be great today, win this game and all that. But Jerick McKinnon is an explosive back, Kevin. When he's healthy, he is as good as any back that you want to see around the league. How about that screen pass? He made that look easy. I mean, yeah, it was well blocked, and Patrick Mahomes did his part, but that guy's good. And he can get 8 yards in a flash. But is he going to stay healthy if you made him your feature back? You know, so maybe it's brilliant to have Pacheco take the hits until he can no longer take them. You know, if he gets bruised and can't play for a game or two, is that going to change the Chiefs at all? No. So maybe you use up some carries there. I really don't have my arms around this philosophy yet of how much do we keep things back and stay healthy for the playoffs and in the running back position versus utilizing them now. And none of them are dominant. All of them have their play. And the Chiefs played it out as well as they could yesterday. All 3 guys were a factor. You know, Clyde Edwards-Helaire could go in a tank and say, I'm the starting running back. Why aren't you giving me opportunities? But he didn't, Kevin. When he got a chance, he made some nice plays. So you can keep all 3 guys engaged and make it work somewhat in the running game. It's just all smoke and mirrors. They don't want to run the ball. They're not that good at running the ball. It's just something to do to get ready to set up the pass. The passing game's what they want. I mean, if you're a Chiefs fan, every time you see a handoff, you go, oh, man, I'm so glad we're running the ball. No, you're like, okay, give us our 3 yards. Now let's go back to passing the football. Don't you think that every time they run?
Yes. Yeah, you know, it's like, oh, we're going to hand it off so we can get to the part where Mahomes throws for 423. I mean, it's just absurd. I mean, Juju's making jokes.
Down, the Chiefs.
They're talking about video games after the game. They're like, oh, that was a game of Madden out there today. I mean, it is remarkable. And I'll tell you what, I was impressed with the defense again. I've seen some things out of the defense this year that I didn't really see last year or in previous years. My question for you defensively, well, first of all, the one point I would like to make is nice to see Frank Clark is still on the team. I kind of forgot that he was on the team. It was good to see him make a couple plays, but 5 sacks in this game. And, of course, a couple of them came late when the Niners were desperate and throwing the ball around. But how do you gauge a defense in a game like this? Because I thought after a sluggish start, they played well to the half. And then once the Chiefs got the lead, defense becomes easy, right? I mean, am I overstating that defense becomes easy when you have a big lead? How do you assess how the defense played in this game overall?
Well, to answer your question, modern defense becomes a lot easier when you have the lead because the focus becomes pretty simple. I mentioned how the Chiefs, even if they run the football 3 yards, 7 yards, whatever, you're going, okay, let's get back to the real thing, the passing game. And when you have the lead, you know every team has to get back to the passing game. And then the game becomes a lot easier. How are we going to win this thing? Well, number one, get turnovers. You do that, you're going to win the game. Hey, get sacks. Sacks lead to punts, desperation, burning the clock. That is the second best thing. And then lastly, force field goals. So even if they move the ball, don't let them score in the red zone. And the one thing the Chiefs have done to have the record that they do, they could have lost a couple more games, Kevin. Now, they should have beat Indianapolis. I'll give you that. But you think about what the differential is in some of these close games the Chiefs have played. The Chiefs' proficiency in the red zone, 20-yard line on in, to score touchdowns is off the charts. They've gotten to the red zone more than any team in the league. But they're hitting at a 75% plus rate. They may be at an 80% rate of scoring touchdowns, where most teams would be in the low 60s, Kevin. That's normal. They are scoring touchdowns. And then back to the defense. The defense is doing a good enough job of being sound and tackling well that they're forcing field goals. And that was a giant differential in the game. The 49ers moved the football, did a lot of great things. Christian McCaffrey was definitely a factor. And what did they end up with? Way too many field goals. Chiefs are dancing in the end zone with McCole Hardman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whoever it is, and the 49ers are kicking field goals. So how do you evaluate the defense? First of all, I got to look at the scoreboard. Can you rush the passer? Can you put pressure on the passer? Can you make it hard for the team to have run after catch or big plays? The Chiefs did that. But the other thing that's happening is different guys are making plays. It's not a one-man show out there. Nick, boom, stops a running play for 2 yards. And if he wasn't there, it would have been the old 8-yard run that we saw with Tyrann Mathieu out there, right? I mean, you see that. Then all of a sudden, here's Snead knocking down a pass or making a tackle on a guy who's coming around the edge. That Niner running game is really, really good. How about Deebo Samuel? He is one of the most dominant players. After Tyreek Hill, he's a difference maker in the NFL. They're one of the top 5 difference makers in the whole NFL. You talk about Christian McCaffrey and getting excited about what he can do in fantasy football and all that, Kevin. Hey, no, Deebo Samuel's way more dangerous and established. Do you really remember him in the game?
No, he's very quiet.
He was not dominating the game. Stopping Deebo Samuel is the number one thing I would look at, Kevin, of how the Chiefs should grade themselves. They did not let him win the game, and in fact, he was not that much of a factor. That's where I thought the defense did well. Forced field goals and getting sacks is important. Doesn't matter what time of the game it is, Kevin. Those sacks all end up being important in football, and to see some pressure like that gives those guys some confidence. Let's give it to the coaching staff. I'm not a big fan of Chris Jones out of the defensive tackle position, but they found a matchup they like, surprised the 49ers, and he brought the heat off the edge. So that was a good change-up for this game.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the league a little bit here. And I think the headline from this weekend so far is Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, and Tom Brady. It's not working. They don't look right. There have been times in his career before where there's been slow starts or he's looked bad or whatever, but you can't watch them play now, and you can't watch him play and struggle and say, wow, is this the end? Is it too early in the season to write off the Bucs, or are they in big trouble this year?
Well, I generally would have my arrow pointing down and be ready to say, I don't think they're going to bounce back. Tom Brady is one you better be careful, the bug that won't die. All they have to do, Kevin, is find their way into the playoffs. And what does that mean in NFL football with 7 teams per conference going? 500 record? 9-8? I mean, can he scrap and get to 9-8, and then they become dangerous again? So there's no correlation between what Tom Brady will be in the playoffs if he makes it and what we're seeing now. That's the only thing that would concern you. I think Aaron Rodgers may get his team going again. They have a 3-4 record also. They look like they're in trouble. But Aaron Rodgers has never been a great successful quarterback in the playoffs like Tom Brady. And the defense for Tampa Bay is better. So I generally think Tampa's in real trouble. They don't look like they're hitting on any cylinders, yet all the cylinders. So, no, I do not believe in Tampa Bay right now. But when I look around the standings, just look at them, Kevin. I mean, where does a 3-4 record write you off now in the NFL playoff hunt? And so until Tampa falls a little bit further, you still got to keep your eyes open. I talked about this with you last week, I believe, that we got the young teams getting better, like the Jets, and the great teams falling, like the Steelers, Packers, Buccaneers, those teams with the quarterbacks or history with a great coach, heading in the wrong direction, and the teams that have no playoff history heading in a positive direction, and they're meeting right in the middle right now, and I don't know how it's all going to sort out. The only thing that we were convinced with, even after the loss that the Chiefs had last Sunday, was Buffalo and Kansas City. Elite. ready to, Super Bowl ready. Maybe Philadelphia. But after that, where's it all going to settle out? It's so funny to watch. Like tonight, you get to see on Monday Night Football, Bill Belichick. I mean, where are the Patriots? They haven't fallen off the end of the world like these other teams I just mentioned, but they aren't any good. New England doesn't have the players, but you better be careful in writing off Bill Belichick. So what will they do? I don't know. But right now, we've got so many question marks in the league with the quarterbacks you used to be able to trust are in trouble. Some of those quarterbacks are in big trouble. Yeah. And will that be the end of the story? Will that be what we write about this season? That Aaron Rodgers, after coming off an MVP year and a 13-4 record last year with the Packers, and their coach LaFleur had the best 3-year winning percentage in the history of the NFL or whatever. Are they really not going to make the playoffs? And Tampa Bay also not make the playoffs? It looks that way. Those teams look like they have nothing going right for them right now.
That's for sure. One team that I think is playing, and you don't like to mention it as much because I know how big a fan you are of the Dallas Cowboys, growing up a Cowboys and Chiefs fan. This is just an outstanding defensive football team. I mean, they're really, really, really good defensively. They're a little bit opposite of the Chiefs. I mean, they're not always as entertaining and fun to watch. Dak Prescott returned and was underwhelming, and I wonder if you think maybe they overdid it over the last couple of weeks, pounding into his head, you don't have to go make plays. We're so good, just don't turn it over, Dak. We'll win these ball games. Have they overdone that? Because when I think of Dak Prescott, I don't think of, like a lot of the other elite quarterbacks that you're just going to ride him to 42 points and win a football game. But I do remember him as a guy that can win games, like a game at the end, make a play, scramble, throw, make a big touchdown pass, that he is the kind of quarterback that, a little bit like Russell Wilson, a kind of guy that if you've got a good defensive football team, can win the game for you. Was Dak too reserved in his return yesterday?
No, he wasn't. Dak's he's not locked in. His game is not good right now. He looked awful in the first game of the year, and we don't play preseason, right? I mean, that's just a big variable. The ugliness we saw from many teams in game one might be fake news for some teams, might be real, but Dak looked awful. He had a look in his eyes, and I watch every play of the Cowboys games. He had a look in his eyes that he was hoping things would go well, but he wasn't supremely confident. His receiving core are all overachievers right now. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's not an A receiver. He's a big-time draft pick, don't get me wrong, but he's not a reliable, big, strong, great route runner. He's a great second option, but he's supposed to be the first option. And after that, they are just searching for where they're going to get things done. So Dak doesn't have the firepower that he did with Cooper was there last year, and the receiving core was really, really good. So right now, he played awful in the first game. Dak played awful. Not just the Cowboys, Dak. And when he played in this game, he still was struggling, Kevin. So let's just say maybe it's some rust and all that, but I don't like the look in his eye right now. He's not the confident quarterback. The question will be after that win and knowing that his defense is so good that he has an out, that he doesn't have to score 30 points like he did the last few years to win the game, will he bounce back and be a little more effective? But if you go back and watch the game, his throws for the first three quarters were missed opportunities, short throws to the tight end were the only thing they had going. He is playing below average NFL. He's not even playing. Cooper Rush could have played the game, and the results would have been exactly the same. And Cooper Rush is not a killer. He's just a guy who plays with a level of confidence, even though he's not that good. So, hey, Kevin, let's just talk about the way you were starting to talk about. If you want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys legitimately fighting with the Philadelphia Eagles to be the best team in the NFC, and therefore getting a chance in the Super Bowl, I can make a case very easily for you. The defense is legit, and a lot of guys are bringing it. It's not just one player. There are a lot of guys, a lot of answers. Dan Quinn's doing a great job of coordinating them. They're controlling games. They're not giving up touchdowns. They're sacking the quarterback. They're stopping the run better. They rotate guys through. They're doing so many things well on the defense, Kevin. If Dak starts playing to the Dak we know, like you said, like a Russell Wilson, you didn't put Russell Wilson in the Aaron Rodgers category most of his career. You didn't even think about putting him with Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, right? Didn't even think about it. But he was a solid quarterback that could win you games at any time. That's what Dak Prescott is and has been. He's such a good kid. He has his mind in the right spot. Kevin, if he gets back to being just the old Dak, and that includes his finger working, that's surgery. That's scary. That's scary when they do a surgery on your hand. Forget just, when you come back, even a year from now, how will it work? But if Dak just gets back to being the quarterback he's been throughout, a really good fighting quarterback, a guy who can beat you in the run game once in a while, isn't scared to have the pressure of being a Dallas Cowboy quarterback and winning, if he does that, the Cowboys can beat the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because Cooper Rush against the Eagles last week lets you know that the Eagles are really, really good. The Cowboys are, just a niche back. And Dak's not the answer right now. He's not playing well. Cooper Rush would have done everything Dak did yesterday. I'm really worried about Dak. He needs to step it up. He looks like a deer in the headlights. I don't know what's wrong with him, but his eyes do not look right. He looked lost in the first game. Couldn't even get a first down, Kevin.
Yeah, he's got to find that confidence you were talking about. When you talk about the Chiefs' confidence.
Yeah, but he gets it back. If he's just his normal self, man, Dallas ramps themselves up. And then I'll start talking to you about Cowboys, Eagles being it. Here, Buffalo Chiefs, guaranteed going to be there. I mean, they are the real deal. Eagles, 2022 version, every reason to believe that they're a Super Bowl level team. And if Dak Prescott just gets back to playing to his normal self, Dallas will follow right in line and probably be the fourth best team in the NFL.
It's going to be fun to watch. We're going to talk a little college football with Stan, brought to you by Fry Orthodontics. Online at fryorthodontics.com, where your smile is just the start. Now, 13 locations in Kansas City and Invisalign, same price as braces. fryorthodontics.com. Buck Roofing and Construction. Ron Buck's team's available 24/7 for emergencies. We've got big storms coming this week. If you see some water spots or some drips, make the call. 913-384-2680. You'll sleep well knowing Buck Roofing fixed the roof over your house. And Back Nine Development. Kansas City, Lawrence, Topeka, Manhattan, TJ Vilkanskas and his team at Back Nine can design your dream project for you. Custom homes, commercial properties, condominiums. It is Back Nine Development. Online at back9development.com. Stan, we will start college football with the game that you called in Fort Worth on Saturday night. Kansas State used 3 quarterbacks in this game because of injury, but somehow Will Howard came in and was Peyton Manning for 3 or 4 series in a row, and the Wildcats had a 28-10 lead on the road. They had Duggan over on the sideline slamming his helmet. They were pointing fingers at each other on the TCU bench, and K-State's calling card is their defense. I thought at that moment maybe 28's enough, regardless of what the offense does, but it was not. What happened?
Well, TCU scored 38 points or more every game, and they have been able to balance their offense. And I thought, it's Lincoln Riley's little brother. Lincoln Riley's the best offensive play caller in the country, Kevin, the best offensive coordinator. Yeah, I know he's the head coach at OU and now USC, but he's the best. His little brother really did an unbelievable job, and I was talking about it on the air when it was unfolding. If they got in a panic and started throwing the ball every down, the K-State pass rush and pass defense would have taken over the game, and the defense would have won the ball game for K-State. But he kept his composure, and he ran the football, and actually ran the football as much or more than he threw it in critical situations. Down 28-10, K-State missed their opportunity to win the game on offense. First of all, talk about it's an offensive football game nowadays, right, Kevin? K-State stopped TCU as TCU was at the K-State 46-yard line on 4th down. K-State's up 28-10, about 5 minutes or so left in the second quarter. The Wildcats have all the momentum and they have the football after a 4th down stop, and K-State went 3 and out. That was the time where if you could have run out the rest of the clock, you would have went in at halftime 28-10, had all that momentum, maybe go down and kick a field goal. Heck, why not go score a touchdown? K-State was moving up and down the field with Will Howard as a quarterback at that time, but they went 3 and out. And from their own 9-yard line after the punt, first play, Kendre Miller, their star running back, goes 48 yards on a running play. And they run the ball 5 times, pass the ball 5 times, and on a 10-play drive, score a touchdown right before the half ends. And in analytic football, sequencing football that we worry about now, Kevin, they scored a touchdown, came back, and had an 11-play drive for a touchdown to start the third quarter. K-State's offense, other than that 3 and out, leading 28-10, had done nothing wrong. But they'd gone into halftime, sat around forever, and now they have all the pressure in the world because TCU's just scored twice, had 14 points. So it's just a weird game. It's hard to get your arms around and want to point, at this person or that person, and hey, you messed up. Because guess what K-State did on the next possession, Kevin? Move the ball right down the field, just like they had. But you talk about everything just happening at the wrong time. When on that drive with the lead, and after seeing TCU score 2 straight touchdowns, Will Howard drives the team down, and on 3rd down runs to a position that you might set up a 4th and short type of situation, 4th and medium, and he goes down and gets hurt. So now you have no choice. Even though it's a strong wind, you got to try to kick a field goal. You missed a field goal on a drive that you did well. Now Will Howard's out of the game. He comes back later. But during that lull, K-State threw an interception, and TCU just continued on. And they're a momentum team. When they get confidence, their offense can explode. They had 2 big touchdowns, a 65-yarder early to get ahead 7-0, and then a long pass to their star receiver as well. So TCU is good. They got the momentum, but it's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity, and mostly sequencing near halftime and injuries. Those are the 2 stories. Daniel Green, all-conference middle linebacker, right? I mean, he is really, really good, Kevin. And he got injured and wasn't there in the second half. And, boy, that's just a big hole for K-State to not have that man in the middle.
I can't imagine any defensive player on any team in America more important to their team than Daniel Green is to K-State. I mean, you can't immediately when he was out of that game, they just went right to the middle and started running it effectively. Everything they did was working, and it was right where he normally roams, and you could just see what they were doing. They're like 22's out of there. We're going right to that spot, and that's not to pick on anybody else that came into play. I'm mostly just trying to say what an outstanding college football player he is. Do we know anything about these injuries? Is Green going to be hurt all year? You know, they brought these guys back. They'd been hurt. K-State had a week off. They thought they were healthier, but a lot of the guys that were hurt in the previous game left this game because clearly they weren't 100% maybe ready to go, and they were limited in what they were doing. Also, Adrian Martinez, the quarterback, I haven't even heard what he has. I mean, was it a foot injury, a heel thing? He was limping. Do we know what he has and what the prospects are for him playing going forward?
No, there was no hint. I can't tell if he was lingering with something coming into the game and got sparked by the run that he had on the first play of the game, or if it was a brand new injury. He stayed suited up the whole game. He was engaged when we flew back on the plane. You know, he walked on the plane like it was no big deal. The medical staff weren't sitting over there, you know, putting a machine on him or anything like that to try to bring him back. So it's a giant question mark. What happened when Will Howard went down? I said right as he was tackled, I think he's hurt. I mean, a lot of times I can see a possible injury. I did not see that with Adrian Martinez until I saw him walk up the tunnel between the first and second series. And I go, wait a second, where's he going? You know, and it's just the mystery is still there right now. I don't know at all where he is with this thing. How good will Will Howard play when he knows he's a starter, if that's the case? All those questions are in play. And Kevin, we talked about K-State has been ranked. They've played a lot of ranked teams. They've had success against ranked teams. But it had been since the last game of the 2014 season in January of 2015 since the Wildcats were ranked and played a ranked opponent in the same game. Now they're doing it for 2 weeks in a row because Oklahoma State is coming in as a top 10 team. So where is K-State with the injury front? That is a big factor. That's a big factor, Kevin. There's no doubt about it. The Cats haven't been home for a long, long time. But if you can get used to the grinder that is the Big 12 Conference, where it's going to be more physical. There are no bad teams. Your starters have to play all the way through. And psychologically, if you can just let your mind clear that you lost a game and a chance to really position yourself. You know, hey, when you're ahead 28-10 and you have a chance to be in first place by yourself, that's a missed opportunity. Yep. That lingers in your head. But if you can let that go, you got a giant opportunity. You're tied for second place with Oklahoma State, and you get to come back home for the first time in a long time. It's been many weeks since K-State's had a home game. If you can win this game, you're sitting there with one loss as the only team with one loss in the conference in second place, and you have a tiebreaker over Oklahoma State. The Cowboys did that. I mean, it was a depressing loss for them. They had a 17-point lead at TCU the week before. They did the same thing K-State did. Up by 17, they lost in double overtime, got all kinds of physical issues and beat up. Yeah. And what did they do? Kept their composure and came back and beat Texas.
They did.
So that's what K-State needs to do. You've got to somehow turn away from last week and look forward to this week and take advantage of the opportunity. But, man, it is not easy.
It's a tough league.
Not easy at all.
There's a lot of good teams. I don't think there's a playoff caliber team, but, boy, there's a lot of good teams in the Big 12. We'll hold off on your thoughts on Kansas. I want to go to Missouri next because they won, and I've got a couple of very close friends that are Missouri fans, and they just couldn't have been more disappointed. I'm like, just take the win at this point. And they're still like, this isn't working. This is not working. This is not good enough. Missouri wins a game, and I'm telling you, their fan base feels like they lost it. How dire is it in Columbia? And can a win, even an ugly one like this one, spark a team to better things? Because the defense has been good all year. Can they find something or take something away just from winning that maybe we don't expect by watching it? Because it didn't really pass the eye test very well.
Yes, you can when you're at this dire straits. I mean, the loss to K-State was such a punch in the mouth, not even the gut. I mean, it's just right in the kisser. That was awful how K-State dominated the game that everyone was looking forward to. And then you lose that Auburn game and you're like, you can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, so they were at such a poor place at that point, Kevin. Any breath of fresh air is good. Now, after the ball game, I don't know if you were watching, but did you see Eli Drinkwitz after the ball game? Right as the game ended, he kind of turned and really pumped his hand into the air and acted like he was really excited about the victory. There's no doubt how he thinks about this, Kevin. He understands the risks you're talking about, but he is going to try to go into that locker room, sequester that team mentally, and say, we won the game, good job. That's all we needed to do. Let's go win the next game, and no one will remember the Vanderbilt game. And he's absolutely right. So he's going to try to do that. So the fans that are talking to you that have question marks and concerns, red flags, all those kind of words, Kevin, they're real. They're definitely real about Missouri. Things are in a really tough situation and could turn downward very, very easily. But if you want to give yourself a second to be a little bit realistic or optimistic, if they parlay that game against Vanderbilt, it's a W in the win column. If they go win their next game against South Carolina, then they're going to be in really good shape. Or if they win one of their next two games, I think they play Kentucky after that at home. They just need to back this one up. This game was an ugly win, but Drinkwitz just says win, and let's go to work. A lot to be seen about Missouri the next 2 weeks. They've had unbelievable success. Eli Drinkwitz has beaten South Carolina every year the last 3 years. He did it at South Carolina twice. When he was the App State coach, he went there and beat South Carolina. He has found a way to play well every time against them, Kevin. If they go win that game or win the Kentucky game, they have a real chance. Arkansas is not nearly as good as they've been before. They still have New Mexico State on the schedule. They actually could be bowl eligible if they got a little momentum, but it has to start now. Their backs are to the wall, and the way they're playing, it's unlikely, Kevin, because guess who they're playing right now? South Carolina is ranked. South Carolina is 5-2. They're ranked, and they just beat Texas A&M. Now, I guess I'm going to mention this, Kevin, because it's relevant. I don't like people who just want to tell stories about their family, so I apologize to all the podcast listeners, Kevin, ahead of time. But you know my son is a special teams guru analyst guy at South Carolina. They took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. That's how they broke Texas A&M. They did it right away with a kickoff return for a touchdown. So South Carolina doesn't play pretty football. They struggle on offense. They're pretty good on defense, and they're elite on special teams. And Missouri's punt team is not good, Kevin. So the biggest disadvantage Missouri has is if they have to punt, South Carolina's punt return team should dominate them. Either block kicks, return kicks a long way back. That's the scariest thing. So get first downs. Do not send that punt team out. That's the same mantra every team has, right, Kevin?
Right.
Just do that this week. But for Drinkwitz needs to turn this into a positive. There's a chance this season could be survived and good things happen. But if you maybe put odds on it, I wouldn't be there. I think Missouri's been leaking oil all year long. I think their emphasis has been exactly on the wrong spot. They're too much focused in on the next guy up. They want Sam Horn to be the quarterback. They want their new recruit to get the ball every down. That is not where you win games. You win games with the guys who've been around a little bit. And that is where Missouri needs to get focused in on, being great on defense and doing those things. But they're not dead, Kevin.
Right.
And a Missouri fan will be the last one to want to be, they'll be the last one that want to jump on board. But the fact is, they've had great luck against South Carolina. You win this game, if next week we're talking about Missouri beating a ranked South Carolina team on the road, we won't even talk about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it changes everything.
So it's there before you. Go win this game, and Missouri could actually get to a bowl game this year, do a lot of things. How much fun would it be to beat South Carolina on the road?
Yep.
How much fun would it be to beat Arkansas at the end of the year? They've been a nail in your side, a thorn in your side. I mean, those things are all available. Arkansas is eminently beatable. Kentucky's not the same dominant team they've been. And Missouri's not had good luck against Kentucky. But what happens if you beat them at home? If you can take a deep breath as a Missouri football team, there are real chances right now. The way the schedule lays out, they've got some real chances. But what they're doing, the fundamentals they're playing with, Kevin, I am not a big believer in how good Missouri's playing right now. So if you want to be concerned, I would be in there. I'd be with you on an objective basis, and I'm very concerned how this Missouri season might end.
Yeah, Missouri's looking for offense. Kansas is looking for defense, and I don't know how or where they're going to find it. How much trouble is Kansas in with the way their defense is playing?
Yeah, depends on what. Are we talking about them being a hopeful Big 12 championship team? Are we talking about them winning 8 games or 7?
They need to win a couple more. I mean, they got to win a couple more games.
They need to win one. They need to win one to be bowl eligible. Their schedule, we said, going into last week, I think I mentioned to you, Kevin, is the hardest schedule in the country going into the last game. And they continue to represent themselves well and fight. Baylor came out super focused. Baylor and the 49ers looked exactly the same. Think about this for a second, Kevin. When Baylor came out, they had bouncing back off of a loss, and they wanted to play great, and they dominated early. Just like the Niners bouncing off an embarrassing loss to the Falcons came after the Chiefs, right? But it was not sustained. It was just an early burst of energy. And what did both Kansas and the Kansas City Chiefs do? Be the more reliable team all game long. I mean, look at the hole that they dug out of for KU with a backup quarterback and a defense that was not functioning very well. They got back to be a threat to possibly win that game, Kevin. So the integrity, the fight that Kansas has is really, really strong, but it's going to be tested. It's going to be tested, Kevin, because their schedule is not going to let up. And if they continue to put loss after loss, you forget about the winning. Okay, as easily as Missouri can think about winning, if they beat Vanderbilt and then find another win in their next 2 weeks, it's that easy to forget about winning, even though Kansas is playing at a higher level if they don't get something done. So the pressure is going to start building here pretty quickly because that 6th win, everyone wants it. They kind of thought it was going to happen, right? When you're 5-0, game days in town, even KU fans are like, I think we're going to get 6 wins. We're going to do it this year. And now the pressure is building. So let's see where we get. Will Jalen Daniels get back for Kansas? Leipold will continue to fight, but he could fight and still lose game after game after game by 7 to 10 points and end up 5-7. So the pressure is building. Let's monitor where this goes to see if they can pick off somebody here. I think they're off this week, aren't they, before they play Oklahoma State? They play Oklahoma State at home. They've got Texas at home. They got Texas Tech on the road, K-State on the road. None of those games are going to be easy to win, but in the Big 12, they're going to be very, very competitive. Right now, both Kansas and Missouri are at that point where the season could really shift into gear and really good things happen or end up being slightly disappointing compared to where we thought they'd be 4 or 5 weeks ago. And that is what's great about the game, and that's what's so hard about being a coach. You're sitting there looking at a bunch of 20-year-olds going, guys, if we could just clean up the errors and just play to our ability and stay focused and don't listen to the outside world, we can have great things happen. And then you look at them and go, they're pretty distracted. They're not really listening to me. That's not a lot of fun, Kevin, to be in that job. But, when you're Kansas City Chiefs and you're Andy Reid, you look in their eyes and you go, we got this. They know we're going to win. I'm not going to talk to them about the little details because Patrick Mahomes is sitting over there, Travis Kelce's right there, and our whole team thinks we're going to win. How valuable is that? We started with this, and let's end with this. The Chiefs' belief in themselves is worth its weight in gold. If KU, K-State, and Missouri could have some of that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes belief, then this season could be great. K-State could be a Big 12 champion, Kevin. Did you see them against TCU? They were the better team for a while. TCU is really good, and K-State can match up with them every day of the week. K-State is truly, possibly one of the best teams in the Big 12. And Kansas could win 7 or 8, and Missouri could win 6 or 7. It's all there, but the Chiefs believe, and these other teams are wondering. And that's the difference between what the Chiefs have and other teams don't.
Stan, great stuff as always. We wish you the very best week possible, and we look forward to all the games down the road. Thank you, sir, as always.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Stan Weber is the best, folks. I hope you're enjoying that. A lot of great analysis there, especially as it pertains to your Kansas City Chiefs. And the college football season, of course, is right in mid-stride, and he's exactly right on all 3 of our local teams here. It could just pretty much go any direction with them right now as the season goes forward. We got some more sports notes and a couple political topics coming up here on KKHI, brought to you by Finch Knife Company, online at finchknifeco.com. You want to check out their new collection of knives? Check them out at Shields in Overland Park. Ask for them by name. Finch Knife Co. We got an email last week. 3 generations of men in one family. A grandfather, well, let's see. It's a father, a son, and a grandson, all 3 on a trip that they were taking this fall with Finch Knives. That's pretty cool stuff. Online at finchknifeco.com. We love those guys, Spencer and Steve at Finch Knife Company. Terrific products. And our friends at the Bluemont Hotel in Manhattan. Great place to stay for business or if you have an event. It's great for individual business travelers, but they're even better for hosting conferences, seminars, training events, and more. In Manhattan, it's the Bluemont Hotel and Goolsby's restaurant and indoor entertainment center. It's all part of the Bluemont Hotel complex, right there on the corner of Campus and Aggieville. Perfect location. It is far away, not even close, Manhattan's nicest hotel. You're going to love it at the Bluemont Hotel, online at BluemontHotel.com. All right, the World Series is set, and I'm not sure anybody noticed. Baseball doesn't seem to have, it's like it's in a vacuum when the football season is going on. And baseball, as we have learned firsthand in Kansas City, is a really, 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 really big deal when your team is in it, and something you don't really watch very much of when your team is not in it. It's much different than the NFL or college football or college basketball, for that matter, where we watch the NCAA tournament even if your team isn't in it. There's just a lot of events that are bigger that you watch and enjoy, and baseball's postseason just seems to be sort of fading away. And they had the teams that they liked. I mean, they had the Dodgers playing. They had the Yankees playing until Sunday night after they got swept by the Astros. Unfortunately, in these championship series rounds, the 2 winning teams were just too much better than the teams they were playing. The Phillies punched the Padres out 4-1. The Astros sweep the Yankees 4-0. No drama builds up, and here's the worst part. Now they sit back the whole week with no baseball, which is the most unbaseball thing ever. There's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night without much good football on. Well, tonight there's not much good football on. It's the Bears and Patriots. So what does baseball do? They're going to wait until Friday night to start the World Series when nobody watches anything on Friday night. People are out, go to dinner, maybe go to a movie, whatever, high school football. Baseball is going to start the World Series on Friday and Saturday, take Sunday off, and then start back up in Philadelphia on Monday. But it's on. These are the 2 best teams. They've been the 2 best in the postseason. The Astros just look unbeatable. Doesn't look like they're going to lose a game. They just go out and they pitch, and they hit home runs. The Astros are amazing. I mean, they're just far and away the best team. It's just not even close at this point. In Washington, we've got some news with Nancy Pelosi. She was on the CBS Morning Show on Sunday. And the moderator, the host of the show, asked her a point-blank question. If and when you lose the House majority, are you going to stay in leadership in the minority? And she says, I'm not talking about that, unquote. She just sloughs it off. I'm here to talk about how we're going to win and keep the House. She just blows the whole thing off. And that doesn't surprise me all that much, but maybe that's not even the question. The question I think I'd have is, are you going to retire after you win? Are you going to hand this over to somebody else in, February, March, April, and have some big ceremony and pomp and circumstance that you're retiring and handing it off? I don't know, but Pelosi didn't like the question. This comes on a weekend where a poll was released that's been going on for a couple of months. This poll was taken August, September, October, a massive poll of female voters around the country that shows inflation is a 4 times more important issue for women voters in the midterm than abortion. So that's more bad news for the Democrats. There is good news for the Democrats out there this weekend as well. There are some agencies that start tallying votes or voter turnout. This has to be done with polling, asking people at spots, what party they're with, who they voted for, things like that. We have had millions of people already early vote. The majority of those are mail-in ballots. So how they get all these stats and how they know all this stuff, I'm not really sure, because I don't think you're supposed to release results. But this story is out there, and what has been happening now for the first week or so, and early voting is taking place in Kansas right now, what has happened as these millions of votes have been cast is the numbers for the Democrats versus Republicans look identical to 2020. You could literally, if you were a Democrat, have a news conference today and say, the numbers we're seeing, the interest and momentum of early voting and the percentage that are voting for Democrats lead us to believe we're going to keep the House, win the Senate, and nothing's going to change. They literally could make that argument. This scares the hell out of me. And I'm not on here to try to scare you today. That's not my point. I don't know enough about this. I have to research more on it. I just read a little bit of it on Monday morning. I'm just telling you there's some agencies out there that are saying the data that's coming in on the early voting is identical to the data in 2020 that gave the Democrats such huge leads going into Election Day. That like no Republicans are voting early. They all wait until the election. It makes me want to go out this week and go ahead and cast my vote. It kind of does. It kind of does. And it definitely scares me to hear them say the early voting models and the returns are identical to 2020 and we know what happened. It's true. I got to bring you the good with the bad, right? So there's the bad. And I don't know if that means fewer of them then show up on actual election day. I don't think we can draw any conclusion about the total number of Democrat voters. All we know is what we can tell about the two parties is the most fervent Republican voters vote on game day. The most fervent Democrat voters vote early and love to do it by mail. These are the people that love lockdowns. They love lockdowns and mandates. They like to sit at home. These are the people that drive in their cars with their mask on. Alone. They stay home. They get their ballot. They mail it off. They don't leave their house. This is who they are. And they're voting in the same numbers they did 2 years ago. It's massive. There's a massive Democrat early turnout at this point. And I had to share it with you. We just have to share all the info as we have it. We're going to do much more on the midterms and politics as this week goes on. We are 15 days out from the midterms. Do not be afraid to vote early if they offer it where you live. Go ahead and do it. I've never done that. I always go on Election Day. I like going on Election Day, but I'm not sure. I may go vote. Hearing all these early tally numbers, I may just go ahead and I know who I'm voting for. It's just a matter of time until it gets tallied. We didn't like the way they tallied votes the last time on Election Day. Remember that? Maybe we should vote early. Maybe we should all be going early and get this thing done. If you know who you're voting for and they're not changing your mind and you're not in the middle, heck, let's all go vote. Let's put them on the board with KKHI. Thank you so much for listening. I ran into so many people this weekend that listen to the podcast and have told their friends, and they've become subscribers, which means it's free. Subscribing is just hit subscribe or like or follow, and you get the notifications when the podcast comes up every day. That's the greatest thing you can do, really, for spreading the word and getting the podcast out there. We greatly appreciate that. We did the newsletter this weekend on Sunday, not Saturday, because Friday night was my anniversary. We spent the night at a local hotel, and so there was no Saturday morning opportunity to write the newsletter. But you get the newsletter every week, and we did 3 patron podcasts last week. If you want to become a patron of KKHI, you want to do that on your desktop or your laptop, not your phone. It's much easier on the desktop or laptop. You get more podcasts and the newsletter each and every week by supporting the podcast for $5 a month. We'd love to have you on board with our patron program. Just go to kkhasissues.com. Click on Become a Patron up in the upper right-hand corner, and it's very easy to sign up and get the additional podcasts and the newsletter each and every week right here at Kevin Kietzman Has Issues.
Thanks for listening to Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. To get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, receive a weekly newsletter, and attend in-person patrons-only parties, visit kkhasissues.com and become a patron today. This has been a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated.